Hey guys, for those not in the know, I'm currently taking a short break from making videos to focus on myself. If you want to learn more why, I made a very brief community post about it. I try to get these videos out at least once a month, but since this one's taking a lot longer than usual, I figured that I should give you guys a sneak peek, which some of you agreed with. So here it is, the very first episode of the review. I'll be unlisting this video once the actual video comes out, so if you're one of those lost media freaks, I suggest you get to downloading. I'll see you guys in the full video, which should hopefully come out soon. Take care. Season 4, Episode 1. Smoke. We're taken to our season-mandated Gene scene, right after Gene totally biffed his noodle on the floor. He's taken to the hospital, where his personal records are being closely analyzed, giving Gene a bad feeling. Luckily, the doctors don't find anything out of the ordinary, and they tell Gene that the fall wasn't caused by a heart attack, so they let him leave the hospital. As he tries to check out though, the receptionist has trouble trying to process Gene's identification, but before Gene can start shitting his britches, the receptionist realizes she made a small mistake typing into the computer, and Gene leaves the hospital, his britches unshitted. As Gene looks out the window like he's the Joker, Gene notices his taxi driver's air freshener for the Albuquerque Isotopes, an actual baseball team by the way. As the driver starts to give Gene some weird looks, Gene asks the taxi driver to pull over and drop him off, and Gene bum rushes out of there, realizing that his identity may not be as undercover as he thought. Back in the present, we're given this beautiful scene of ashes floating through the air, with the camera panning over from the Dr. Mesa Verde files to Jimmy sleeping in bed with Kim. Jimmy gets an early start to the day, feeding his goldfish and looking around the newspaper for any job offerings. He gets a call from Howard, telling him the not so good news about Chuck, and Jimmy rushes to the scene, with Chuck's house burnt to a crisp like a rat that fell into a KFC fryer. He sits on the bench that he and Chuck sat on during Pimento, staring at the same transformer that Chuck did. Jimmy talks to Kim, telling her about the electrical units that he found in Chuck's backyard, and how he believes that this, along with his death, was no accident. He tries recalling his conversation with Chuck and how normal he seemed, but forgets to mention the part where Chuck told him to go fuck himself. Mike quits his job as the toll booth operator, and he gets his first check from Madrigal, netting himself a cool 10 grand. Kim gives Jimmy a call from Howard, who goes through Chuck's obituary to check by Jimmy. Howard goes through all of Chuck's life story and major achievements, but Jimmy straight up ignores Howard and walks out of the room. Jimmy sits on the couch, depressed, and Kim pops open the Zavira Añejo bottle to try and make him feel better. We transition to the next morning, with Kim fast asleep on the couch, but Jimmy's still sitting in the same hunched over position. One thing that I love about this show is the amount of visual storytelling on display. Kim and Jimmy go a good 2 minutes without even saying a word to each other, but the message is still crystal clear. I also love how the show leaves a lot to our imaginations. Jimmy goes almost the entire scene without saying a single word, and we're left to wonder what he's thinking about as he walks away from Howard's call and sits on the couch. Is he sad about Chuck's passing? Is there something that he felt that he should have done to prevent his death? Or is he simply trying to repress his memories? This makes rewatching the show all the more fun, because it's also possible that Jimmy thought about none of that and was actually thinking about pounding down a Nachos Bel Grande combo from Taco Bell. Fucking smash some hot sauce on that shit and go. We're taken back to the moment Hector went bye-bye on the ground. Nacho knows that Gus likely smells foul play in the air, so he tries to dispose of the evidence into a manhole cover, but is stopped by Gus, who takes him to a meeting with Bolsa. Nacho sweats his balls off during the meeting, and Bolsa tells him that the Salamancas territory still belongs to the Salamancas for the time being. As Nacho leaves, Gus warns Bolsa of a likely move against the Salamancas, which would likely bring war, chaos, and worst of all, attention from the DEA. Nacho disposes of his pills into a nearby river, as Victor spies on him, tracking him down with a bug placed on his car. The discount version of Terrence Fletcher from Whiplash heads to work for the day, when he realizes that not only will his car not start, but his ID is missing too. Now who could have possibly done that? Oh, it was Mike. Mike dicks around the Madrigal office, driving around on the Mike-mobile and marking down all of the imperfections with a business. He gives the ID back to its rightful owner, and grills the fuck out of the manager for letting Mike just waltz on into the business without anyone giving him a second look.
You got duplicate routing numbers on cargo, surveillance camera blind spots on the north and the east side of the floor.
Well, all due respect, I don't know anything about a security consultant.
Well, you wouldn't, would you? Maybe you best call corporate. Try Lydia Rodart Quayle.
We transition to Chuck's funeral, which is just as boring and depressing as Chuck was. During the funeral, we can hear a rendition of this song I'm still not going to attempt to pronounce, playing in the background, a reference to Cobbler's Cold Open. Many attendants at the funeral talk to Jimmy, sending their condolences, but Jimmy remains numb, seemingly void of any emotion. Howard and Rebecca grieve for Chuck's loss, as the show abruptly cuts to Jimmy and Kim driving back to their apartment. They spot Howard sitting on the curb, devastated, and Howard talks to the two inside, telling them that he believes that Chuck's death was intentional, since he lived without electricity for over 2 years, and knew damn well to be careful with the lanterns. Howard believes himself to be the cause of Chuck's death, since he was the one who pushed Chuck out of HHM in the first place. Howard also mentions Chuck's malpractice insurance premiums being raised as another key factor of him leaving the firm, and you can literally see Jimmy's heart sink as he hears of this news. Jimmy knows that he played a major role in Chuck's death, but rather than coming to terms with this knowledge, he plays an extremely dirty card.
I think he did what he did because of me.
Well, Howard, I guess that's your cross to bear.
Oh my god, Jimmy, what the fuck? I thought the Irene thing was bad, holy shit! Jimmy is projecting more than a fucking movie theater in this scene. Rather than coming to terms with his own emotions, he instead decides to redirect them towards Howard, pinning him to be the main cause of Chuck's downfall, and represses his own guilty conscience in an effort to trick himself into believing this narrative. Douchebag. This episode is hauntingly quiet, with Chuck's death looming in everyone's heads. It's a very slow-paced and visual-heavy watch. While there are some great scenes though, this one's still getting a B tier for me. A good start to the season.